and anybody else. Uh, you know, obviously, any right-thinking person would simply support the people who are agitating on the streets and against the violence which is being perpetrated against them. That's a no-brainer. But on a more practical side of this agitation, just want to get an idea. Where exactly is the agitation going? Because from what reports are coming out of Iran right now, it seems that the regime is gearing up to crack down even more brutally than what it has done so far. It is planning to unleash its own mobs on the protesters and perpetrate all kinds of violence. And we've seen many of you would have been very young, I think, at the time of the so-called revolution in Iran in '79. But we've seen, what happened at that point of time, and so there is a real fear of a very, very brutal crackdown on these people, and it's not an accountable government, it's not an accountable regime, and they, in any case, they are ostracized. So a little bit more ostracization will not make a difference. So, uh, to get an idea where exactly is the agitation going, number one. Number two, what Tariq Saab was saying earlier about the Second World War in the analogy, which is all very well. But I think even the partisans in that at that point of time might not have been able to actually achieve their freedom from the Nazis had it not been for intervention from outside.
No,
Uh,
that's true. That's true.
so even for example in Bangladesh,
Yes.
had the Indian army not intervened and booted out the Pakistanis, the fact of the matter remains that the genocide would have touched Nazi proportions.
Hmm.
They were trying very hard. In fact, they almost outdid the Nazis, that they killed more people in 9 months than what the Nazis, half of what the Nazis had done in 6 years. Uh, but even so, the fact of the matter remains that without that external intervention, these people would not have got their freedom. So, just these 2 points which I want to raise with the Iranian people on the space, if they can give us some idea. I can understand the passion, I can understand the sentiment, I can understand the outrage, all of that, completely agree with. But purely on a more practical side, where is it leading up to?
Excellent question.
Okay, it's your
Um,
turn. It's your
yeah.
turn.
If you ask me like where it goes right now, like what would be the next step? The next step would be the mullahs are gone, the regime is changed, and then there would be election with it would be democracy. There would not be anything about the religion, and then of course there would be a person who I don't know, like if the religious people wanted to,
It's
Muslims
your
wanted
turn.
to have it.
I'm sorry. I don't want to interrupt, but I need to, because I think you're jumping the gun. My
Okay,
question is that as things stand right now,
okay.
we are seeing the agitators on the street, but the regime is extremely powerful. But it's not that these guys are just going to lie down and play dead and let the protesters on the street take over. I don't even know whether those protests are organized. There is some kind of an organization which is leading the protest. There
Mhm.
is some kind of leadership to this protest, or is it just a spontaneous outburst? So,
Okay.
one, if
Mhm.
it's a
I
spontaneous outburst, then it's pretty easy to pick and eliminate people, and the thing dies down. The question is not what you will do when you are successful. The
okay.
question is, how do you become successful? Can you go there? Because the odds seem to be stacked against the protesters.
Okay, the regime is powerful. So in Iran, people don't have a gun or any type of weapon. So like it's not like US. So of course they are empty-handed. They are defenseless. But people are organized by themselves, so they have a small groups they try to lead. But the point is, the regime is brutally killed people, and it's like so violent in the street. And then mostly the people, like I would say, teenagers and really really young people are in the streets. Of course, from all type of generation, but really young people, which I think regime cannot predict them because they are really like, of course, I think they are coming from their generation of playing the games, so they know how to play the game. Um, but I don't know what would be the next step or what happens and how we will succeed. But I'm sure we will, and it would be the first revolution that comes from the free women movement. Did I answer your first question?
May I jump in?
Please.
Go ahead, Nahid.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Mr. Fatah. Thank you so much for
Hello.
giving me the opportunity. So you asked about the next steps as of now. Well, as you know, it is grassroots, so we really don't have kind of, leadership in per se. But then what I believe is that people can find their ways. The reason that, I mean, now the crackdown, the really, regime crackdown is hard. We don't have accurate information from inside Iran because of the media. Not because of the media blackout, I'm sorry, because the internet is down. And then there are a lot of, sources that try to spread the misinformation. Uh, However, what I think is that, yeah, so what happens is that on Twitter and Clubhouse rooms, people start to give um, plans, action plans of what to do with the, for example, the city of Oshnadieh that has been taken over by the people, what they need to do. But again, as of now, we cannot really say that we have the leader. Our only hope is that the um, people continue their presence on the street with the support of other, with the support of other people. And also, our hope is that the regime is kind of, collapses, is imploding, and because we see signs that the crackdown is may not, I'm not going to use maximizing language, may not be as harsh on people as 3 years ago. What we see is that there are many people that are arrested, but there may not be so many murdered as 3 years ago. So our hope is that with the economic sanctions, with the authorization of the regime by the world, and by lack of support from the EU and the US, and in general from the West, the regime collapses. The good sign always has been for me that these people, the regime officials, have sent their families and their assets outside Iran. It means that they are not relying on their own future inside the country. They don't have. They know that it is not. They're not going to last. So that is why they have their own Canadian passports, American passports. They have their money in bank accounts around the world. So that is a good sign. And but then the bad news is that when we really don't know, because it really depends on many factors. And if we just want to kind of, reduce it to few factors like this and that, that would be, I think, a reductionist approach. Thank you very much.
Tariq Saab, can I ask you a question, please?
Yeah, please go ahead.
So, something which Nahid said suddenly strikes me. What is it about Canada that all kinds of most despicable people get refuged so easily in Canada?
Yeah,
That you have the Pakistani generals and
yeah,
bureaucrats who loot Pakistan and then go and settle in Canada. We are hearing from Nahid about the Iranian regime people who also have Canadian passports.
Yes.
So I'm kind of curious to know what is it about Canada. I thought it's a very decent country. What is it about Canada that it
If
attracts these kind of characters?
Because it's a rule-based system and it's a point-based system, anybody who qualifies in that range, you can imagine our population is only 30 million, which is like New York City, and we have hundreds of thousands of square kilometers to abandoned territory. Now, the point is that people coming in, but what is not reported is that every day there are about 10 to 20,000 Iranians in downtown Toronto. And the one aspect of this movement that has been missed by many is that it has a Kurdish origin to it. The woman who died was a Kurdish young woman who came to Tehran and died over there. There's a component to this. I'm switching from Canada now, but just to clarify that every day downtown Toronto is packed with people who are with the Iranian protesters, and they are not just Iranians who are here. There are people from all sorts of communities who understand. But Canada is such a country that when our national champion defeated the American in New York, she apologized to the American, said, "I'm so sorry I beat you on your home turf." ये सीधे लोग हैं. So people do come over here because it's a rule-based, point-based system, and then they come over here. And my next door neighbor is a couple from Iran. I don't know which side of the equation they are from, but they're young. They recently arrived here, and they've been missing for about 2 3 days. So I wonder, must be something happening. But it's generally an incredible place to start living. And the Pakistani generals have almost taken over a town. Their begums have a club where they all gather and play, you know, and embroidery ki lessons or is type ka sara silsila. So I highly recommend all of you to migrate to Canada.
I'm sorry, may I jump in, Mr. Fatah?
Please, please.
Yeah, okay. So in terms of, because I am Iranian Canadian, so
Okay.
and I have lived here for some time, and I work
Yeah.
with, immigrants. Part of my job is working with immigrants and
Yes.
international students. And I have always been vocal to my Canadian friends in the union that I am a member of,
Yes.
that unfortunately Canada relies and survives on dirty money. And it is, the regime affiliates from Iran come here because they have a lot of money. The same thing happens with the Chinese officials, with the Russians. Vancouver, Dubai, and London are three hub cities for money laundering through real estate. And this is not what I say. This is what the panelists said on, if I'm not wrong, on Al Jazeera 4 years ago. One of them was from Europe. The other one was from the United States. I mean, they were scholars. They were not, people with their own agenda. They made their research. And then the other thing is that the money laundering is done through casinos. And there has been lots of news about how the police, the RCMP, has mismanaged the cases of money laundering in casino, and how, pieces of information here and there are kind of missed. So unfortunately, this has become a safe haven to park their assets here. And again, if you search Chinese officials park assessments, and then the other search word could be astronaut families, then you can see articles from 2013 and 14 BBC wrote about, how people, corrupt politicians send their families. They
Yes.
kind of, yeah. Okay, so you already know about it. I
Yes,
just wanted to say,
I'm quite aware of that. That